Hi guys, Tracy here with my Scrapbook Essentials video for the video hop that's happening on YouTube right now. And so this is a series of videos by a number of different scrapbooking YouTubers where we share with you guys all of our top picks for essentials. So for this video, I'm going to share with you guys my top 12 picks for essentials, and I think it was supposed to be top 10. And I am a bit of a rule follower, so I'm feeling a little rebellious here by making my list be 12. But I wanted to add these two. These are my last two, and I consider them the gap. They span the gap between essentials and kind of stepping it up, and I consider them staples. Because I don't think I could scrapbook in a fun way without them. So I've included them in my essentials video. And so what I wanted to consider my essentials video was the items that I use over and over again and that I couldn't scrap without. But also I wanted to think about gearing this video more for beginners who are starting to, beef up their scrapbooking supplies or decide, what to get besides. When you go to the scrapbook store, you'll find, paper packs that are just currently out on the market, and you'll find each paper collection comes with a bunch of stickers and some embellishments and that sort of thing. So it's always fun to go to the scrapbooking store and buy those things. But these are the things that you need when you come home to put all those pretty things that you bought at the scrapbook store, to put them together in a layout. These are some of the more essential tools that you need. That they might not be the most fun things to pick out, but they're really, really good to have on hand if you're starting out. So the first thing, obviously, for scrapbooking is a pair of scissors. You need to be able to cut your paper, and I'm not going to talk about these basic big scissors because everybody has these. These are just from the dollar store. You probably have a pair of scissors in your house without going to the scrapbook store to buy something. So I'm not going to talk about these, but it is good to have a pair of big scissors on hand because it makes it easier to cut long straight lines if you've got a pair of big scissors. But one thing that you might not have on hand if you're a beginner is a pair of fine scissors. We call these fussy cutting scissors, and the ones that I have are by InkieQuill. And these are their, sorry, my camera isn't focusing. There we go. So that's the logo, InkieQuill. And these are called Cutter B scissors. And they come in two different kinds. Mine are I have the black kind, and they are coated with Teflon. And the reason they're coated with Teflon is so that if you're cutting stickers or sticky things, things that you've already put adhesive on, you can see there's a bit of adhesive right there stuck to them. You can just pull it right off. It doesn't stick to the scissors, which is nice. I've had these for a very long time, and they cut well still, and they're comfortable to use. And the reason it's nice to have a small pair of scissors in addition to your big scissors is that, I will demonstrate, is that it allows you to get into the little places. If you're cutting out a pattern, you can kind of, get in there and cut around that pattern really easily. And to do this with a big pair of scissors would be pretty difficult. So you can see how I can just kind of, and one tip to using these well is to move the paper and keep your scissors still. The only thing that your scissors should do is open and close. And another tip is to cut as far this way as possible. So, I usually only cut about to right there, and then I'll open my scissors again. I don't cut all the way to the very end unless if I need to use this very fine tip. So if I wanted to stop in a very certain spot, I would go like that, because these scissors end exactly where the cut will end exactly where the scissors end. Sometimes with bigger pieces, with bigger scissors, the ends don't quite meet, and so you don't cut exactly to the end of the scissor blade. So scissors is my first pick. Second pick, and I've got three picks that are adhesive. My second pick is an adhesive runner, and this is dryish adhesive. So this is adhesive that you I use the same scrap piece of paper. So you just, with this one is Tombow permanent adhesive, and this is my favorite brand of small Adhesive Runner. They're really comfortable. They fit in your hand. You just, so that you're not doing it backwards. A lot of people, you know, when my kids pick it up, sometimes they don't know which side to use. You want your fingers to go on the part that has the textured lines on it. That way you know that you're using it right, because if you use it this way, you're not going to put adhesive, you're running it backwards, so there's no adhesive there. And so this is just a roll of tape that's in there, and you just kind of go like that, and it puts some adhesive down, and it's see-through, so it's not, it doesn't really matter so much if you, I just want to rip off another piece of paper to stick it onto it. So then you can just stick this right on there, and it sticks really nicely. The nice thing about dry adhesive is that it's not very messy, and the second thing is that it can be quite forgiving. So, you know, once it's on there, if you decide it's not on there straight, you can peel it off and reposition it. But for this brand anyways, I've had good luck with this holding up over years in my scrapbook, so this is a good one. The other nice thing about it is that you can buy refills. You don't have to buy the whole case. The refills look like this, and you just hang on to this blue part and just clip the refills on. You can buy this at Michael's. And so a dry adhesive runner is really good because it just simplifies. You don't have to wait for wet glue to dry. Sometimes wet glue, if you put on too much of it, it'll make your paper go a little bit wrinkly in the wet spots. And so this is just good for that. It's less messy, it's easy to use, it dries immediately, there's no drying time, and it's also, as I mentioned, it's forgiving, so you can pick things up and reposition them and then put them back down again. And usually when you burnish it, like when you really kind of, and this is textured paper, so it's not going to stick the best anyways, if I can find that spot right there. So usually once you really press it down, it'll stick even, that's when it'll stick even better. So yeah, this isn't going to stick all that well because I've already peeled it off several times. So a dry adhesive runner is my second pick. My third pick is Adhesive Pop Dots. And if you're getting a set of these for the first time, I would recommend that you get the 1/16 inch kind. The Stampin' Up! Ones are 1/16 inch, but if you get these EK Tools ones, and there are some other brands that make these as well, make sure that you're getting the thinner kind, because you can always double up the thinner kind. The thick ones, if I might have a set of thick ones just so I can show you the difference. Yeah, so here's the difference. This is the thick one, and this is the 1/16 inch one. This one is the 1/16, and that one is, I guess, probably 1/8. And so the nice thing about these is that the 1/16 inch gives you just a slight amount of lift. These are perfect for adding to flare badges, for adding flare badges to your layout, because it's not going to make the flare badge pop off the page, but it's just the perfect size for making sure that it sticks. This one is going to lift your flare badge up off the page a little bit. So if you're using flares, these are the best ones to use. With those hollow flares, some flares are flat and it doesn't matter which one you use, or you can just use some of this on those. So yeah, if you get these, you can always double them up to make one of these if you wanted more lift, but I find that usually the amount of lift that I want, which is usually just enough to get a bit of a shadow to give me some dimension, this is what I want. And so that is the reason that we would use Pop Dots, is to lift things up and give that kind of nice shadow. I'm going to grab a layout to show you. So this is a layout that I made this morning, and I've just kind of pulled up some of the layers and I just put some Pop Dots under there. Now, I don't usually take off the backing, so this is you can take this backing off like this. I'll take it off right now. And you can stick it down, and now it's not only for lift, it's also adhesive, so it's sticking it there, right? Or you can just leave the backing on it, and that way if I decided to put more layers under here, it's not stuck and I can fit other things in there. So I used Pop Dots on all of the edges of this one, and then I also used a Pop Dot under my flare badge. Pop Dots are also really great to use when you're layering things that are different widths. So let me check and see if I have an example of that. So here's another layout that I did that used some pop dots. So I pop dotted this sticker up off the page, and I pop dotted this die cut right here up off the page right there. And I often will pop dot my banners. So this isn't a banner, it's just a rectangle, but I treated it like a banner. So there's a pop dot there, and there's a pop dot there, and then in the middle I used a tape runner. So that's what I did. I also pop dotted this entire one so that it's up off the page a little bit. And using pop dots is really helpful when you're layering papers together, because I didn't want the arrow to go over top of this. I wanted this to just cover the tiny little edges of this arrow. And so putting the pop dot allows me to layer this over this instead of this going over that, which is normally what I would have to do. And then again, right here, it just adds some interest because this one is flat. These are both made out of paper, but by pop dotting one of them, it gives it a little bit of interest and it doesn't look like it's the same thing. It just gives you some variety. So, pop dots. Then my fourth pick is liquid adhesive. And for a long time, this was my only liquid adhesive, was one of these Zig Writer glue pens. The reason that this is a really great one for starting off is that it's perfect for the times when you've got something really tiny and applying this adhesive is just going to be like it's too tiny. So let's punch something and I'll show you. So, if I want to put these little tiny hearts onto something, and I try to put this adhesive on it, well, the big ones, you can do it, but for these teensy-weensy ones, you could do it, but it would be very tricky to do it. It would be very tiny, very tricky work. So instead, this glue pen gives you the chance to adhere the tiniest bit of glue right there. And so you can see that it's got glue on it because it's a little bit shiny in my lights. And so now I can stick that anywhere, and it's such a tiny amount of glue that when I press it down, it's not going to ooze out. So I could adhere this right here. There we go. And no glue has oozed out around it. It's hard to see because I glued it to the same piece of paper, but there it is right there. So this is really handy for gluing tiny things. I'm just going to get those out of the way. Now in my process video, just kind of going back to this one, in my process videos you probably see me using this big boy. This is the same, I mean it's a different brand, but it's basically a dry tape runner. You can get this at Michael's on a coupon. I think in Canada they sell for about $20 or $25. And basically, if you do a lot of scrapbooking, it's really helpful. Not only is this a good tool because I like how it applies adhesive, but it's also a really cost-effective way to buy adhesive because these rolls are way bigger than these. And also it's a lot more convenient because you don't have to change as often as you do with these. So, you know, this could get me maybe 2 or 3 layouts, but this will get me 2 or 3 months of scrapbooking. Well, maybe a month or 2. So this is one of my favorite things that I use, and you will see me using it in my process videos, but I didn't pick it as one of my picks, although here I am talking about it. So but I didn't pick it as one of my picks because I don't think it's essential. It's, you know, if you're starting out and looking to, you know, not buy the most expensive stuff, one of these is fine. So there's my wet adhesive, and then this is another wet adhesive that is this is Tombow Mono Multi Liquid Glue, And this glue is great. It does have two heads, but I only ever use the one. What I really like about this glue is that it sets up super fast. It has a pen tip, so you can really control where it goes. And it gets tacky super, super fast, and it completely dries super fast too. And it is one of the strongest wet glues that I have ever found. I made mini albums with it years and years ago, and they're all of the things are still holding up, and mini albums are the kind of thing that gets handled a lot, so if something is going to not hold up, that would be the time, but everything that I've used this on has stayed connected, so that's good. And another alternative to that would be Glossy Accents, which is also really popular. This one dries to a glossy finish, and this one dries to a matte finish, so I like this one because if I do accidentally use too much and it oozes out a little bit, it's not going to be shiny, so you're not going to notice it as much. So my fifth pick is my paper trimmer. One thing that you can use as a guide to whether or not you're a seasoned scrapbooker is if you've become frustrated with your paper trimmer and unable to find one that you like. That's a good sign that you've been doing this for a while and you know what you're doing. So anyways, I started off with this one and I grew to hate things about it, but really this is all that you really need. It's a Fiskars paper trimmer and it has a rotary blade. I do recommend using a rotary blade. Not everybody, you don't have to, but the nice thing about a rotary blade is that the blade rolls with the cut, and so it does give a straighter, sharper cut, crisper cut than the kind of ones that just drag a sharp point across the paper. So this is a good trimmer. The main thing that I don't like about it is that it ends at 8 inches and it doesn't have a flip out. So, and it's older, so now you can get the almost exact same trimmer, but that has a flip out ruler, so that if you're trying to cut papers that are longer than 8 inches, you can still have the measuring. So have a look out for these. I didn't pick my Caterpillar as a pick because it's quite a bit more expensive trimmer, and if you're just starting out, really all that you need is a Fiskars trimmer, and there are a lot of different options out there. I do, as I said, recommend a rotary blade though, and so this is a good middle of the line. It's called the Fiskars desktop rotary trimmer. So that's, and it's got like, its legs are plastic and it's like a rubbery plastic so that it doesn't shift around on you. It's very good, and over the years I've become very, very good at knowing exactly where the blade is going to cut, and so whenever I need something cut to an exact place, I will always pick this one because I know it more than I know any other trimmer. So having a good close relationship with your trimmer really pays off. My Caterpillar cuts, I like it because I like it for a lot of other reasons, and it is like more than 12 by 12, which is one of the things I love the most about it, but I don't quite know exactly where that blade is going to go. I'm pretty sure, but if I really need something fine-tuned, I'll use this trimmer instead. So trimmer is my fifth pick, and I do recommend the Fiskars ones. The blade is replaceable, and these cutting strips are also replaceable, so you can pop this orange thing out. Mine actually needs to be replaced. It's quite old, but you can pop this out and flip it around and replace it. So you can get 4 uses out of this because you can flip it around, and then the blades can be replaced as well. So that's trimmers. My sixth pick is ink, and for this essentials video, I think it's essential to have black ink. And so I have black ink here. So my favorite black ink is VersaFine black ink. It stamps a really crisp image no matter how detailed your stamp is, and so I love this. It's also a really juicy ink pad. I've had it for maybe 5 years, maybe even longer, and it's still really, really juicy. It works really, really well. I've never had to refill it, so that's pretty amazing. And then my second kind of backup pick, if I had to pick one, I'd pick that. But if you're going to be stamping on you can stamp on photos with that. But if you're going to be stamping on stickers or any kind of slick surfaces like vellum or overhead transparencies and that sort of thing, then you will want this StazOn ink, which is, or a similar slick surface ink pad. So StazOn is, and it smells good too. It smells like almond extract, and you're probably not supposed to smell it like that, but I love it. I love the smell of it. So another brand of similar type of ink is Colorbox Surfaces. I have this in some other colors besides black. It stinks terribly, so if you can find StazOn in the colors that you like, get StazOn. But StazOn does not make a very nice gray, so I have gray in this one. Yeah, so that's ink, and if you're wondering why you need ink, well, because stamps are also in my top in my top picks. So stamps and blocks are my pick for number 7. So I prefer using clear photopolymer stamps as opposed to wood-mounted rubber stamps or red rubber stamps. So I mostly only have these. I got rid of all of my wooden stamps. What I love about these is that they're so easy to store and use that I would much rather just use these. So I'll talk about the stamps in a second, but in order to use these stamps, because they don't come with a wood block, you need some acrylic blocks. This one is very dirty, but I thought I'd show you a couple different options because this is the kind that you can get from Michaels, and it's made by Inkadinkadoo, and it's very inexpensive. Like this might have been like, I don't know, $5? Probably less in the United States. And I think I've seen these even at the dollar store and stuff. You don't need anything fancy. Then this is a fancier stamping block. It's by Stampin' Up, and this one was probably like $9 or something. They're a little overpriced, but they're just beautiful, and I indulged in 3 of them. I did buy 3 different sized ones. It was when I was a demo and we were supposed to be showing the stuff, and so I think 1 or 2 of them came in my demo kit, and then I just bought this small one because I needed a small ink block. If you're buying one ink, you don't need multiple ink blocks unless if you're doing a whole lot of stamping. So I don't have that much. I only own like maybe 5 blocks in different sizes, and again, some of them are just from being a Stampin' Up demonstrator, which I'm not anymore. So anyhow, if you're buying 1 block, I would recommend that you get this size. Most stamps fit on this size of a block, and it is 3.5 by 2 3/4. So it's a really good size because you can always put smaller stamps on a bigger block, but you can't put bigger stamps on a smaller block. So most stamps are going to fit on this, so it's a really good starting point. And then if you end up getting more into stamping and want to use background stamps and that sort of thing, I use this one for my background stamps. It's by Martha Stewart. Or you can get another kind of a tool for stamping large stamps. So blocks are boring, so I didn't want to spend too much time talking about them, but I did. And then if you're going to just be getting into stamping or getting into stamping as it relates to scrapbooking, what I would suggest that you start with is a set of stamps that have some really basic versatile shapes. And so this is my favorite versatile set of stamps right now. It's from Stampin' Up, and it's from their Project Life collection, and it's called Point and Click. What I love about this is that it has some of the shapes that I reach for over and over and over again. Things like labels, arrows, different kinds of arrows and different shapes of arrows, and hearts, and these chevron type of shapes, more arrows, and speech bubbles, and a little hexagon, and a camera. These are just perfect shapes. And so this is what the stamps look like. And so I just keep these. I pulled this out so that you could see the case that they come in, but I just keep these out on my desk because they're so versatile, and I reach for them all the time. So I just keep them right by my workspace, my work surface. These are some other, I just went through my stamp sets, and I picked out a couple of Scraptastic kits that also have really versatile phrases and shapes on them. So I don't remember which month this one was from, but it has lots of good shapes, including a camera and some phrases. And then this one has some numbers, which is handy, and then some other shapes and stuff. So Stamps are really fun, so I wanted to show more than just the basics, but if you're going to start getting into stamping, I would start with basic shapes and then kind of work your way up to buying more specialized shapes. So I thought I would demonstrate how stamps work just in case there's anyone out there who hasn't seen these things at work. So you peel them off of the plastic that they come on, and you put them onto a block. It's a good idea to use a small block for a small stamp if you have a small block, but any block will work. The reason it's a good idea is that if you use a huge block, sometimes you can get ink on the side, and then when you stamp it, it can be a little bit messier if you're not careful. So you just put it on the block like that, and it sticks by itself as long as your block is clean. This block, for example, see how it's got all these fingerprints and stuff on it? This one might not stick to a stamp. Let me see. Yep, it will. It doesn't stick quite as well as this one sticks, though. So I have my little camera stamp right here, and it doesn't have to be straight, as you can see. Mine is not straight right now. And I'm going to stamp in this VersaFine ink that I told you I love so much. And there you go. I have a little camera. I could cut it out, or you know, leave it on a piece of paper, or stamp it on my background, or do whatever I want. So that's how stamps work. And I am not too fussy about cleaning my stamps. I think hardcore stampers probably use their special solutions. I have some of that, but I just like to use a baby wipe, and then I just put it away. So that's that. My next pick is punches. So this is number 8. Punches, and I do have 3 punches here. These are sort of, if I had to pick 3 punches, which was really hard, by the way. I don't have a billion punches or anything. I've got a fairly small collection compared to the years that I've been scrapbooking, but it was really hard to pick. If I had to pick one, I would pick this one. This is the double embossed dotted lace, which is a very strange name for what it is. It doesn't sound like it would be called that, but this is it. It gives you this big scallop border, and I absolutely love it. It actually doesn't emboss these shapes. It's supposed to, but it doesn't, and I'm glad it doesn't, because I actually don't like those. So if you punch it really hard, you might be able to get those circles embossed in there, but if you just punch it normally, it's not going to show up, and I prefer that look. So this is my all-time favorite punch ever. And then I think it's important that you pick some of your very favorite shapes for punches, because punches should be fun. So I have a number of butterfly punches, I have a number of heart punches, and I have a star and a chevron punch and some pendants and that sort of thing, because it's good to have your favorite shapes. I don't have a lot of really specialized shapes like different flowers and leaves and that sort of, I have a few of those sorts of things, but I think it's good to get your favorite shapes. And then it's also important to have, so I picked 3 punches to represent 3 different things. So one is border punches, one is, you know, your favorite shapes, and then the second one would be very generic shapes. So this one is a pinked circle. So I have only one pinked circle, but I reach for it all the time, and I wish I had a couple, because I wish I had different sizes, because this size doesn't always work for me, and then I have to go to my Cameo and cut one, which is not the end of the world, but it would be nice to have more pinked circle punches. Anyhow, I do have a variety of different sized circles. My circles, I have a 3-inch, a 2.5 inch, a 2-inch, a 1 and something, a bunch of 1 and something. What are they? 1 3/4, 1 1/4, 1 3/8, 1 inch, 3/4. So I've got a whole bunch of circles. They're really handy to have, because it's just easy to punch a circle. And I collected those very slowly over time. And then I have some scallop circles, and I used to have some squares, but one of my squares broke, and so now I only have one left. And I have a whole bunch of heart ones as well in different sizes besides this. So a heart is almost a standard shape for me. It's almost like a circle and a square. So anyways. Then my 9th pick is pens. Wait a minute, is that 9? Yes. So yes, my 9th pick is pens. So if I had to pick one pen, I would pick the black version of this, which I actually don't own. I've gone through 2 of them, and they both ran out, in 2 of them over a very long period of time, but I still have the brown one. So this is a Zig Writer, and it is pigment ink, and it has a 0.5 tip. And it also has a 0.7, I think this is, no, 1.2 bullet tip, which I use occasionally. So I would pick the black version of this. I do like having black and brown versions of my favorite pens, so I do have this one in brown as well. I use pens a whole lot. I use them for my journaling, but I also do a ton of outlining on almost all my layouts. I'm going through a spell where I'm not outlining quite as much, but outlining is kind of my thing, so I love markers and pens. So this in black would be my pick, and then for when you have to outline on a sticker or even journal on a sticker that has a slick surface, this Staedtler Lumo Color pen is my favorite slick surface pen, and I have it in fine. I also have it in medium, and I have tons of colors of them too because I love these Staedtler Lumo Color permanent pens. They're awesome. And then if you're buying pens, it's really nice to just get a set that have multiple widths, especially if you plan to do outlining. So if outlining isn't your thing, then you probably don't need 3 different widths of the same pen. But these are my Pigma Micron pens. They're made by Sakura. And they're archival ink, and they're black, and I have them in 0.01, 0.03, and 0.05. And they're really handy to have in different widths just for outlining purposes. So I have a whole video, I actually have 2 whole videos all about markers and pens, so if you are interested in learning more about the markers that I love, have a look at that video. I'll link it in the information section below. Number 10 is a roller date stamp, and it's not really essential, but it really is nice to be able to just kind of get your date, roll it to the date, and ink it up and stamp it on. It gives you a nice kind of office-y type of look, and the fact that it comes with these phrases is really nice. Lots of different companies make these in lots of different versions. Some of them are themed, like I've got a couple of Christmas ones. This one is my most generic one. I love this wood grain handle, and I love that the phrases are not too specific to anything. I could use these phrases on almost any photo, so this is really, really nice addition to your scrappy essentials. And my next pick, which is the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher, and the staples come in a package that looks like this. I use this on almost every layout, so it's one of my essentials as well, and it staples these tiny little staples. They're so cute. And I sometimes will use it just for decoration, and sometimes I will use it to hold things down, and then I end up covering up the staples, and sometimes I use it to hold things down and you show the staples. So my last pick is my work surface. And I do get questions about my work surface. It is the logo is right here. It's a Martha Stewart. I'll just zoom in so you can see that. It's a Martha Stewart work surface. And it has, well, it's a little bit bigger than this because it's got an edge on it, but it goes 24 by 18. And I got it at Michael's with one of those 40% off coupons, and this is what it looks like on the back. I'll just move some of these things around. So it looks like that on the back side. And I do like to protect my work surface, even though the idea of a work surface is to do your work on it. I like to protect my work surface. Like lately, Scott was down here fixing something for my village, and I appreciate his help. So I'm not going to complain, but he did get some crazy glue on my work surface, which, oh. Anyhow, I'm really happy that he helped me fix my village, so I'm not going to complain. But I do like to protect my work surface because I had one before I had so this is my old work surface. If you watch my earlier process videos, it looked like this, and it's like almost useless. The grid on it is almost useless when it gets this messy with paint and ink and marker and stuff. So I did keep it because it's still a fine work surface, but I use it for mixed media, or I use it when somebody comes over. Sometimes I'll flip it over. I even use the back side, got all yucky. So anyhow, this is by Fiskars, and it's another option, but this one by Martha Stewart is a little bit bigger, so I like this one. And another good thing to have if we're talking about work surfaces is a pad of this Stampin' Up! Grid paper. It's not quite 12 inches high, but it's more than 12 inches long. It's 16 and a bit. It's probably like close to 17 inches wide. And I don't use it. This is for, you know, when you go to a Stampin' Up! Party, they give you a chance to put your wish list and the things to remember to order and stuff like that. But I really like using it for outlining, and you can see it's got a lot of stray edges on it. And I bought one of these probably... I bought one of these pads, so it comes with a lot. I don't know how many are in it, but it comes with a lot. And I bought this maybe 3 years ago, more than 2 years ago. And I still have plenty of them left, obviously, because I reuse them over and over again. So I'll keep on using this one until it's so covered in stray marks that I'm ready for another one. Or if it gets like wet or ruined or something, I'll just switch it. I'm not too stingy with them, but I do reuse them. And I just keep it tucked right under my existing work surface so that it's handy and I can find it easily and pull it out easily. It usually goes back in pretty easily, but I've got some heavy stuff on my work surface right now, so it's not at this moment. Another work surface thing to talk about is, if you're thinking about protecting your work surface, is one of these non-stick mats. And this one is by Basil. It's, let me tell you how big it is. It's 18, it looks like. Hang on, it's hard to measure with things on my thing. So it's 18 by, it looks like 14. And this is really good when you're doing messy things. So I didn't talk about any messy supplies today, except maybe ink. And I wouldn't use this for ink. I just use paper to be a kind of a barrier for ink. It does come clean really, really easily. So even this part that looks like it's stained, it's just because I was too lazy to clean it. It's not actually stained. It's also heat proof, and even glue will just tear right off of it. So there's some glue right here on it, but I just have to kind of pick it off with my finger. It comes off really easily. It's heat proof, which is really nice, because if I'm using my heat gun on this surface, this will kind of warp if I use my heat gun on this. But if I put this in between it, then it won't warp, so I can go ahead and heat and not worry about ruining my work mat. And it makes cleanup super easy. I just bring this right upstairs and I rinse it off, or I don't, and I just roll it up and put it away. Yeah, so those are my top picks. Thanks so much for listening and following along. I'm going to make another video of my style makers, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for following along with us, and check out all of the other YouTubers who are doing these top picks videos, because it's really fun to see what everybody picks. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great scrappy week.